Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Welcome to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning, coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I am once again your host, Jake Hitt. I'm not Shane Matthews. Shane's over in Vegas playing much nicer golf courses than JC ever will, and probably eating better food. How you doing, JC?
Hey, good morning. Yeah. He's I guess they're 3 hours behind us in Vegas. So what, for Pacific Standard Time? Last night he was I think they're staying at the Mandalay Bay, and he was telling me he was having a nice dinner at some real hoity-toity restaurant. So he's enjoying his trip. It's football day tomorrow, one of the first bowl games, Jake. It's kind of like, I know the Vegas Bowl's cool, but December, 18th or 17th, whatever date, to have your bowl game. What's today? Today's the 16th? Yeah, so the 17th. So tomorrow's the 17th. That's the bowl game, first bowl game. I guess the season gets started, and then there's kind of a lull till
Second
Christmas.
day.
Right, and then there's a
Second day
lull.
bowl.
Right, then we have this Christmas. Well, I don't think there's much of anything on Christmas. And then after that, between Christmas and New Year's is when you get into, Bowl-orama, baby. So hopefully Florida will make a good account for themselves, show up and play hard. And certainly this will not be a replica of what happened when they played Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl a while back and compete. We want to see Jack Miller. We want to see some guys maybe step up on defense. We want to see a game where Oregon State has to work for it. I think Oregon State is a 10-point favorite, Jake. So Vegas really doesn't like Florida's chances, to say the least.
Well, with all the guys Florida's got out, I mean, I would think that you'd want to bet on Oregon State. I mean, 9-win team. They have just found ways to win. They got great physical running backs and a really nice running game. Quarterback can be a little bit of a detriment to them. They've thrown like over 13 picks, I think, this year. So they don't have a really great turnover margin. But I just think with Florida being so short-handed, no Anthony Richardson, they get Osiris Torrance. You don't even know who's going to start at left tackle for Florida. Missing a ton of other guys at tight end, and you're starting a guy who had thumb surgery who hasn't even played this year.
Yeah,
so I would think Vegas would be smart to set that line for Oregon State.
Well, and 10 points is a big number. I listen. Jack Miller, we've been told, can spin the ball, and he's one of those kids that must have done something well to be able to be invited to a place like Ohio State, right, and try to be a football player for the Buckeyes. I mean, Ohio State just doesn't go pluck. They pick out who they want, obviously, and if they wanted Jack Miller at some point in this space-time continuum, then he must have done something to make them feel like he could contribute to them. So he's not some guy that just walked off a Greyhound bus after driving for 15 hours from Huntsville, Alabama to Daytona Beach looking for a job. This is a guy who was an attractive prospect to one of the most powerful football programs in the country. And it didn't work out for him there, just as it didn't work out for Joe Burrow there. And so, or Quinn Ewers for that matter. Didn't work out for Quinn Ewers at Ohio State either. So it's not an indictment at all on Jack Miller that things didn't work out at Ohio State, because we have two guys that I just named who are playing right now, one of whom has been wildly successful since leaving there. And the other one could be. And so Jack Miller could be a guy that, after this game, people are saying on the podcast here in a week, Jake, whoa, did you see, where the hell has that guy been all year? Or it could be, man, our receivers stink. Or it could be, yeah, the guy was nervous and he just didn't get it done, and maybe we need to give him more of a chance. But I'm kind of thinking it's going to be, wow, he hit open receivers. Florida threw the football effectively. And you know what? This looked pretty good. And I'm feeling pretty damn good about spring. So this is a big day for Florida football. I know it's the first bowl game, and my God, nobody really cares outside of Florida and Oregon State, friends and family. But this is a real opportunity to watch some new players have a chance to make an impact.
But it's not the first bowl game because we have bowl games tonight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Have,
but I mean,
first
one that I'm actually aware of.
You're not going to watch the Bahamas Bowl?
That's a good point. That's a, I sound like a freaking chain smoker too. And by the way, the announcement of the month of sickness, I think I've conquered the illness that has afflicted my throat and voice. So I'd like to thank all those who were praying and wishing me well to recover so that I didn't get planted in the backyard somewhere next to some root or tree. I am going to watch the Bahamas Bowl. I don't know if, those are the kind of games where if I was in a casino, I would be more interested in them, if you know what I mean. The Bahamas Bowl tonight, oh, wow, Miami of Ohio and UAB. But there's also the Cure Bowl,
Okay. Don't sleep on the Cure Bowl, okay?
Well, you shouldn't, because you've got two explosive top 25 teams playing, Troy and San Antonio, dude. So again, for those friends and families, gamblers, and anybody else who's got a connection to the beautiful city of Troy, Alabama, is going to be tuning in at 3:00 to the Cure Bowl, where San Antonio, the Roadrunners, is a 2-point favorite. And then to this morning, it's 11:30 in the morning. They're playing the damn Bahamas Bowl, 11:30 in the morning. I don't understand why. UAB and Miami of Ohio. And then the Gators tomorrow at 2:30 kick off with Oregon State. That cracks me up.
That's got to be the earliest Florida's played a bowl game, huh?
It's got to be. I mean, if they're on Pacific time, that's 11:30 in the morning.
Not time-wise, but in the year.
Like, right. Now, it absolutely is. I mean, we're a whole week before Christmas, and here they are playing their final game of the year. Isn't it kind of startling to you, Jake, that we've gotten to the final game of the football season?
I hate it. I hate when football season gets down because it's usually the end of the year, and I don't like when the year ends. I don't like when the calendar flips over. If we could like stay in like one continuous year forever and we just kind of change month to month, that'd be fine for me. But it is, but I think for some people they can't wait for the season to be over if it's pertaining to Florida.
It's bad, yeah.
So many headaches, and football season, the end of it's always sad, but for this it's just been so many ups and so many downs, and people just want to get through the lumps of year one. Nobody ever wants to, unless year one's going well, nobody ever wants to stay in it. And they want to see what year two has to offer, because that's always the one that's promised, that one and in year three in terms of seeing on-field production. So I don't even know if Florida fans will. If you're watching this, you might be saying you're gonna watch it, but I don't know how many fans are going to be tuned in for this on Saturday. They might go actually spend time with their families.
Well, I agree with that, but the diehards are going to really want to see what Jack Miller's all about, Jake. They're going to want to see it. And this is a test. Oregon State's going to be they're a physical team defensively. I know Shane thinks Florida's got a great chance to win this game, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. But, we talk about 1 year where you're really hoping for the year to end. There have been a couple of schools that have turned it completely around in 1 year. And that's because of the transfer portal, because of whatever external influence has on rosters. But, two schools, one of which is playing in the Final Four, TCU. And then, of course, Tulane, who's got some hot names with their quarterback. And then, of course, their coach, Willie Fritz, going from 2-10 to 10-2 QB. Jake, think about the turnaround and how dramatic that is in 1 year. Now, Florida, if you had to grade them, and I asked Shane this question, but Jake, if you had to go, you're a teacher now and the semester is over. The final exam, I guess, is tomorrow, but not really. Let's say the final exam was Florida State. Grading them from A to F, what's your grade?
I would go C because
Yeah.
they won. I mean, I would think 6-6 is a pretty average
Yeah.
season.
Mhm.
Like, and so C is a pretty average grade.
Well, see, yeah, I would say I would just throw a minus there only because
C
they
minus.
lost. Well, they lost to Vanderbilt, Jake,
That's
and
true.
they didn't just lose to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beat them by a touchdown. Could have beat them by more, and they got pushed around by Vanderbilt. So that they get a minus there. Now,
I agree with C minus.
but some of the games that kept them from overall just flat out failing this year was Utah, of course, at the beginning of the year. That has to count. And to me, the South Carolina game, because we saw what South Carolina did. They wrecked seasons after the Florida game, and Florida absolutely dominated South Carolina. And so those were the two best games for Florida. And clearly, to me, the worst games for Florida were a win against South Florida, which should never have been in doubt or close, and then the loss to Vanderbilt were the two worst games for the Gators. I think the win against South Florida was almost as bad or worse than beating somebody like, Eastern Washington or hell, who else did Florida beat in the SEC? So it was just I don't know, C minus. So we'll just go with that. But it's all about what's going ahead now and future and getting players here. You said the deadline for the early sign period is in a week, December 21st. You got any updates? I know you keep up with that on some of this recruiting that has been going on, and folks are very interested in that.
Yeah, there was just an announcement for a Florida target just yesterday. Unfortunately, he's going to University of Miami. His top, I can't. The name is escaping me, so forgive me if I'm looking it up. Samson Okunlola from Massachusetts and Thayer Academy picked the University of Miami over Florida, Alabama, and I believe Michigan State. He's a 2023 recruit, a top 20 recruit, offensive tackle. So I mean, look, it's just another kid that Florida is in on. It's kind of in the mix there at the end, and it just can't pull out in terms of getting them to put their name in and say, hey, I'm coming here, and when it's signing day, that's where I'm going to sign to go play football. And Miami once again is just still pulling in talent.
Well, they are, but they lost Rashada. Remember him? He was their big name. And then he skated north to Florida. So he could be in the mix come the spring. I was looking at Kevin Brockway, who tweets and he covers the Florida Gators. And he has the depth chart out here. And really, with the exception of a couple of players, Florida's going to have most of their guys ready to roll. I don't know. We've got Zipper is not going to play, but Xavier Henderson will be back at wide receiver. And you can go on Kevin Brockway G1 and check out the depth chart for this game. You'll have a better idea maybe of who is going to play and who is not going to play. They've been there for a couple of days now, kind of getting the lay of the land, getting used to the time change. And he's got some nice chronicled information for you if you care. I've always liked Kevin. So, Scott Carter's another one who joins us on this podcast, who you can go on to and just get some fillers before the game tomorrow. But it's a big deal to me because if you win and you go 7-6, Nick Saban went 7-6 his first year at Alabama.
Oh, don't bring that up.
He sure as hell did. He went 7-6, and you know what happened after that. Maybe Billy goes 7-6 with a pretty exciting win over a team that beat the Oregon Ducks in their last game at home in comeback fashion, and we ride off into 2023 on a high note.
Is that what everybody's going to start pulling out of their hat every time their coach goes 7-6 first year?
Yeah. Well, they should.
Well, Nick Saban also had a national title.
Well, I'm telling you, listen, he also lost to Monroe in his first year. Kind of like Billy losing to Vanderbilt. Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe in his first year at home, and they ended up beating Colorado in the Independence Bowl to go 7-6. And then we know what happened after that. They go 12-0, lose to Florida in the SEC championship game, lose in the Sugar Bowl, and then in 2009 the run begins. But the improvement from one year to the next was pretty remarkable. And now I think the opportunity to improve from one year to the next has been already proven to be a lot simpler. Well, not simpler, but much more likely when you look at what Tulane and TCU have done this year. And I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else, but Florida can absolutely change this roster around, find a trigger man, and really make a splash in 2023. And that's the only thing you can think about if you love the Gators. That's the only thing you can think about. That's what you better hope for anyway.
I think that's been like the theme since Billy Napier got here. It was never 2022 to see what would happen. It was always 2023, whether it was recruiting, and now, you know, that football is, the season's turned into what it has. Everybody's pointing their finger toward that next year.
Well, I think people got spoiled after that Utah game, Jake. And I bet you yourself thought, dear Lord, we're going to be a factor this year. Watch out, Georgia. We just beat the Utah Utes, man, defending Pac-12 champions. We beat Cam Rising. We held them out of the end zone on 2 drives that could have put them over the top. The Gators are for real. And I think a lot of folks fell into that trap. And then comes the Kentucky game, right? So, yeah, that brought people back to earth. Let's just say that.
I don't know. I just think probably Nick Saban probably got a little bit more grace because of what he did at LSU than, you know, a guy like Billy Napier coming all the way from Louisiana, Lafayette. And
there's no doubt. There's no doubt. But he still went 6-6, dude, and or 7-6 his first year.
But you do point to TCU doing what it has done in Sonny Dykes' first year. I want to mention, you know, he's got a chance to become, you know, the first guy since Larry Coker to win national championship in his first season. Only 3 guys have done that. And funny enough that we've already mentioned it, but 2 of them were at the University of Miami.
Oh, no kidding!
You know,
really?
The other guy was Benny Oostervaan at Michigan back in like the 1940s, like 1948.
Okay, and who was the other Miami coach?
Dennis Erickson.
Oh, Dennis Erickson. Okay, yeah. Well, you know what the common denominator was for Dennis Erickson and Larry Coker is they had a guy at quarterback that could distribute the ball through the air accurately and with consistency. And that was one of the questions we had going into the season about Anthony. You can give him the grade you want. We now know what it was, what the season was, and we're moving on from that. So,
all right. Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Dorian Weeby, a realtor with Coldwell Banker M.M. Parrish, will provide you with fast, friendly, and reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come home at Celebration Point, JC. This is important. It's where Gators come to celebrate, if you didn't know that. With premium brands like International Diamond Center, David Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Escapeology, Visor's Rooftop, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, #1 celebrity polished casual restaurant in America. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate. JC, if they beat Oregon State, would you bump the grade up?
I would go from C- to C+ for sure. Absolutely. Maybe, yeah, C+. I mean, you can't give them a B for 7 and 6. This, unless your expectations are so downgraded from, 15 years ago that you just accept 6 losses. I mean, if 6 losses is your thing and you think that's acceptable here at school that you once won 2 out of 3 national championships in 3 years, then that's where you are in your world. You're an average guy. So I think, and Oregon State is no joke of a team. I know Shane's not as impressed by them as I am. All I know is 9 wins. They played and had much better wins than Florida did during the season in their conference. And like I said, beat Oregon, beat the Ducks, who were thought of as being the team that would end up playing USC in the championship game. It turned out to be Oregon because of the Washington Huskies winning a tough game. That conference was much more competitive, I think, than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, Washington Huskies led by a transfer, Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah. I mean, they threw the ball all year long, led the country in it, statistically speaking. So I know they're happy, and that's what I think folks want to see around here. They want to see the ball distributed correctly, distributed consistently, efficiently, accurately, whatever adjective you want to use or adverb, whatever you want to say. They've got to get the ball in the air to open receivers if they're going to be successful in this conference. You can't just hand it off 42 times and think you're going to win, because defensive coordinators in this league are going to stop you if you're one-dimensional. If you are made one-dimensional in this league, you are going to be average at best. And that's what happened to Florida this year. They were one-dimensional.
But I think the thing was they were so successful being one-dimensional. You know, they would do so well on those running plays. They got 2 stud running backs.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure they were, but did that correlate to 10 wins or 9 wins? No, I mean, it didn't correlate to that at all. I mean, to me, you cannot lose games to your biggest rivals plus Kentucky and Vanderbilt and say you were effective offensively. I didn't think they were going to beat FSU in spite of how many points they scored in the first half, because I figured FSU would make some adjustments and force Anthony to do things that he wasn't comfortable doing. And then, of course, Jordan Travis couldn't be stopped. And, you know, defense is an attitude. What kind of attitude will Florida have next year on that side of the football? I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about quarterbacks and records and grades. What about on the defensive side of the ball? Where is that Gator defense that I grew up knowing that would never allow somebody to run for 200 yards on them? Florida used to stop the run as well as anybody in the country in the good old days. Florida can't stop crap. And that's the problem.
That comes with, you know, building your defensive line and having some good interior line play. And as good as Gervon Dexter was this year, and the talent that he has, it's just him. You know, Chris McClellan, really nice surprise as a freshman, probably fills into that role coming into his sophomore year and probably makes a big jump. But you got to shore up that defensive line to create those abilities for your linebackers, who they got to pick the right gaps to come in and fill. I'm not going to, you know, I'm just out here describing what, you know, everybody probably knows in terms of defending the run, but that's where they're going to probably need to see one of these guys who've been behind or down the depth chart step up, with Ventrell Miller finally leaving for the first time in, like, you know, 6 years. He won't be in the bowl game. So we'll see what actually happens with a guy like Derek Wingo, you know, Scooby Williams, if he plays, Shamar James. We'll have to see how they step up against, you know, a pretty good rushing attack in Oregon State, with a guy like Demi Martinez leading for them about 1,000 yards on the season for the Beavers.
Yeah, the Beavers, man. I don't know. I mean, Shane wasn't as impressed with who they've got a true freshman quarterback. I don't think anybody's a true freshman anymore at this time of year. He's played enough to say, well, he's a little bit more experienced than just what a freshman would give you at the beginning of the year. But they're pretty happy with what they've got at Oregon State. They got 9 wins. We're talking about Oregon State. And so, you know, 9 wins in the Pac-12. My God, please. I mean, their stadium has 27,000 seats in it because they're redoing it, which is kind of nice. I'd love to see something redone over here at the Swamp in terms of comfort for the fans and the rank and file, and not just the big money folks up in the hotel. But that's another point. I deviate, or digress, I should say. They're redoing their stadium at Oregon State. And, you know, this is a program that some folks consider that what they call a developmental program. It's one of those programs that once in a while can get you 9 wins, so forth, but players develop and then either move on one way or the other. And rarely do you ever see them playing for championships. But here they are with 9 wins. I'm actually surprised all they got was a Las Vegas Bowl invitation. Frankly, I thought they would get something a little bit more prestigious, but maybe it is prestigious to go to the Las Vegas Bowl. It's just one of the first ones being played. And most people consider those early bowls some of the less prestigious games. But more important than all that is, what is Jack Miller going to show us with whatever weapons he has on the outside and up front protecting him? And that's, you know, I don't want to see him run the ball 40 times. If they run the ball 40 times, 35 times, I mean, I might as well just turn it off. That's not going to present to me anything that I want to. I want to see what Jack Miller's capable of. That's all.
We'll have to see what exactly happens in terms of him throwing the ball, just because the targets, you know, that he's going to have working with. He's going to have, you know,
no shorter.
You'll have, because he's just short as a clerk for the NFL draft. You'll have like Marcus Burks, Caleb Douglas, and then your tight ends. Your tight ends are Dante Zanders, Jonathan Odom, and Noah Keeter. and Arliss Boardingham's your fourth tight end. So
yeah,
they're probably going to be inclined to run the ball more just because
I guess
the ability to catch the ball might not be there.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I just want to see if this kid can distribute the football the way we think he can. He's not going to have Osiris Torrance helping him stay off the ground, and he's not going to have Shorter outside trying to make a play for him on those one-on-one balls. But you know what? Let's just hope for the best and see what this guy can do. I don't know. It's Miller time. It's Miller time, baby. It's Miller time. It's Miller time in Vegas.
To point out that Osiris Torrance departure, they actually have a Louisiana transfer filling in for him. 6'8" Cameron Waits will be playing guard, the redshirt freshman from the
that's great.
So
let him.
I mean, look, it's a little bit of a preview for next year, just like the Cotton Bowl was in 2021, which I mean, look, everybody knows how that ended. I just want to read something from Joseph here. Everybody is worried about the offense and the QB. If the defense doesn't get better, it wouldn't matter if they had Tom Brady. They're going to struggle. Big year for Patrick Toney next year.
Yeah, I think so. And in this game, they've got a 1,000-yard rusher, close to a 1,000-yard rusher in this kid Martinez for Oregon State. So you'll see him get the ball quite a bit, and stopping the run will be important. Toney is trying to. I think he's just feeling out who he's got, and you know this early signing period to me, and the late signing period into February. They've got to find some depth up on that defense. You've got to stop people. Like I just said, you've got to stop the run in the SEC. And Florida used to be one of the best schools in the country doing that. And now it doesn't even matter. So you've got cornerbacks, you've got in the secondary, you got Marshall playing, you got Hill playing. And this kid Gulbranson, who I was talking about, their true freshman quarterback, who's no longer really a true freshman because he's 6-1 as a starter for Oregon State. Shane wasn't as impressed with him on tape as maybe a journalist would be just writing about him because his numbers are pretty good. He's 6'3" and he completes 62% of his passes, and he's got 8 touchdown passes in 7 games. So you can expect that they'll probably, averages say, they'll throw a touchdown pass in this game. So Florida's going to have to keep up. I think we've got a potentially high-scoring game on our hands, even though we don't know about Jack Miller's how he's going to play. I think we could see some points in this game, up and down the field kind of thing, maybe.
Like to the point where it's like funny how many points get scored?
No, but something like a 37-28 kind of game. I mean, that's not too funny. What do you think? You think we're going to see points?
No. Well, it's just, I think we don't know if we are, just because of the fact that we don't know what Florida is going to do on offense.
Yeah, no, we don't.
You could reasonably expect, Oregon State to put up points just because Florida's been gashed so many times in the run game. It feels like that they would be able to do it. And this game means a lot more to Oregon State than it does to Florida, if you ask me. Just because of the fact that they got this is a chance to get to 10 wins for the first time in like 16 years.
Yeah, 10 wins.
They're playing not too far from home. They're playing, in Nevada. Florida's going to fly all the way over to Nevada to play the game. And I just think they'll probably come in with a lot more momentum than Florida does. Now,
look, they won their last game. Yeah,
I'm sure Billy doesn't want to go under 500 in his first game, so they'll be motivated. I just feel like Oregon State, this means a lot more to them than it does Florida. It could be very easy for Florida to sit back and be like, the whole team's not here. We're 66, something like that.
I see that, but I also see a lot of kids on display for auditioning in the spring. These players that are getting their opportunity, like Jack Miller, let's say, like Cameron Waits, the kid who's going to step in for Osiris Torrance. This is their chance to do something of significance heading into the spring so that they're not just another face in the crowd on that roster, which, we're only talking about 2-3 months away. Spring is a big deal because you're going to get all these new kids in here, and the kids who are playing right now are wearing that helmet and that uniform. I think they're going to try to show up and play damn hard because Billy is watching and the grades are being passed out now. And this is your chance, dude. I mean, if you haven't played much this year and you're starting in this game, you better want to play your ass off if you are serious about being a college football player at this university. And like I said, I mean, if you can't play hard in the bowl game in freaking Las Vegas inside Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play and you know the City of Lights, I know it's an early game, but get out there and play your ball, play your butt off. And just go and try to audition for the spring, man. Play your as hard as you can. Like I said, it's an opportunity for a lot of kids, you know, who are filling in. And I just think that they better play hard because they may not find themselves on a roster come March or even sooner.
Quick to point out to you here, JC, Dan wants to tell us the over-under for the 40 games is going to be 53. So your possibility for points, Vegas does not share that. And also, you know, pointed out in a rebuttal to me, the kids look excited to be there just from looking at their video from Vegas when they got met by the Elvis impersonator in the lobby.
Oh, it's great. That's great. I mean, the kid dancing in front of them there. You had the showgirls out there with all their glory. Listen, a kid from Bartow, Florida doesn't get that much in his life at the young age of 20 years old. It's a big deal. I think it's a bigger trip than we're making it out to be. I know it's one of these early bowl games, but for these players, I think it's very important because I think, you know, the Judgment Day is here. It's going to be whether or not you want to. It's going to be whether or not you want to be on this roster. I think
it's here. Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and repented of your sins, Jonathan?
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a break now. We'll come back. JC's gonna stay with us for the second half of the show.
Wow, it's already 8:30. Unbelievable.
I know. Well, time flies when you're just absolutely wasting time. So we'll be right back. Get to talking about some bowl games.
Okay, buddy.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
And we're back off a break where JC has been lamenting the loss of our producer, Jason Bennett, after this show. He's torn up about it, folks. I can't believe it.
I mean, I love Jason Bennett. My God, it's just turnover. You know, the world changes. There are other, it's an opportunity for Jason Bennett. You know, it's just like Jack Miller. Everybody's got new opportunities out there.
Hey, man. Faster, JC.
Yeah, this Cameron Waits is in line. He's going to get his first career start up on the offensive line. Very important that he keep, he helps keep Jack Miller clean, man. And because Jack's going to throw the ball. I'm telling you, I think you bet over in this game. What'd you say it was? 52?
53. Thanks. Shout out to Dan.
Go up. Go up. I'm giving you I think we're looking at a 38-28 type game. I want the Gators to win. But if it's 38-28, that's what I think you're looking at. Because to me, in these games in the second half, if folks are scoring points, defenses kind of fade away, and points are scored. It becomes a race. I just can't see Oregon State and Florida, regardless of who's playing, stuck in a 20-17 game, Jake. I mean, maybe that's what's going to happen, but it's a 38-28 kind of game. I can't see a 2017 kind of game, Jake. So
now,
anyway,
my question is, what do you think on the over/under for the Iowa game, which is currently set at 31?
I don't know how those Iowa fans sat through a season with that type of ineptitude. I can't believe that Kurt Ferentz would allow his son to be exposed in that role as offensive coordinator and be scrutinized like that. Maybe they didn't have the players. Maybe they did lose some players at the beginning of the year, but the ineptitude was rather offensive. It was offensive offense, if you could say that. And they're going to play Kentucky. Kentucky is not going to have Will Levis in the Music City Bowl. I think I would rather dig a hole in the ground and do manual labor than watch that game. That's just going to be painful. It's going to be, like I said, offensive. It's going to be one of the least anticipated bowl games for me. It's on the same day as the national champion semifinals games. It's on at noon. At the same time, the Sugar Bowl is on between Alabama and Kansas State, which, by the way, that line has been crashing down for good reason, I think.
Oh, hammer Kansas State to win that game.
Well, you could have gotten them at a much better number than where they are today. But if you win outright as an underdog, you're going to win the bet regardless of how many points. And then later in the day on New Year's Eve, which is a Saturday, we will get the Frogs and the Wolves and the Dogs and the Bucks. So those are the prelims, as they call them, the prelims before fight night. It's the night of the fights, and the undercard shows you Iowa and Kentucky to get your nap in before a long night, or you can watch Alabama play with a bunch of guys you've never seen without Bryce Young, without Will Anderson, without a lot of players, against the Kansas State Wildcats, who are fired up to get their opportunity at the GOAT. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the kind of thing that gets you going, you better get ready for that big day. But Jake, of the bowl roster, of all these games in the bowl season, which one game, or are there maybe two games that really jump at you and say, man, I got to watch this? I mean, I like to watch all the bowl games from Christmas to New Year's. That week between Christmas and New Year's, I've said this ever since the radio days for Shane and I, from Christmas to New Year's is the greatest week of the year, because you can basically just sit back, tell the office, I ain't showing up, tell the clients, listen, this is my week. I'm taking it for my mental health, and do whatever you want between Christmas and New Year's, and enjoy the bowl season and enjoy hopefully some good weather and just recharge before 2023. And there's a lot of football that week. So I love the week of Christmas to New Year's. It's probably my favorite full week of the year. So you see any bowl games?
There's a bowl game that I told Brent about yesterday when we had Brent Baird on the show. Shout out to him. I really like the Holiday Bowl in terms of the non-New Year's Six bowls, the Holiday Bowl, Oregon and UNC. Bo Nix versus Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
A really good quarterback battle there. And then another one that, look, I think most people who root for the smaller schools have circled Tulane, USC, and the Cotton Bowl. USC can't stop anybody. Tulane's got that great offense with Michael Pratt going, and they seem to be peaking at the right time. I'm really excited to see what they can do on a national stage. I have a friend who's actually she's actually a Tulane alum, and she was going to be in Dallas for New Year's anyway. Now that the Green Wave will be in town, they're going to go to the Cotton Bowl.
How perfect is that for her? God bless. That's wonderful. Some news at the Citrus Bowl with Purdue that Aiden O'Connell is not going to play against LSU. That line has gone up to 14 points. So what could have been a pretty exciting game has now kind of gotten not as exciting. I'm curious at the, you mentioned the Holiday Bowl. I think the Orange Bowl could be interesting, even with Joe Milton playing for Tennessee, because Tennessee has had this magic carpet ride of a year. And I was very impressed with how they kind of responded against Vanderbilt. And I know it's just Vanderbilt, but we know about Vanderbilt, right? So anyway, Tennessee responds after that South Carolina debacle, after losing their quarterback, and plays hard. This, I think, could be entertainment. 8:00 game down in Miami. Tennessee and Clemson will be orange everywhere, and I think the fans will show up on December the 30th. That's a Friday night. Why wouldn't you go to Miami if you're from Knoxville, Tennessee, of all places? Head down I-75. It's a straight shot. Takes a pretty good while to get there. But once you're down in South Florida, you can take the clothes off and enjoy the weather. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good game. And I'm also curious about the Cheez-It Bowl because I want to see if Florida State, how many points will they score on Oklahoma, Jake? 65.5 is your total in that game. Oklahoma's going to score as well. But the Jordan Travis kid made an impression on me in that Florida game. And I'm curious to see if he can keep it going for the Noles. So those are two that really stand out for me. You got Texas, Washington, pretty good game there, I think. And like you said, the Holiday Bowl, the Oregon, North Carolina. Ole Miss, Texas Tech could be entertaining. And, so those stick out. But there's also some real dog games, man. I mean, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State is an absolute snore fest. And like I said, Iowa, Kentucky could be that could be one of the worst bowl games you watch in years. Just if you like any kind of offensive scoring.
I am a proudly announced degenerate of a person, so I will probably be watching, Kentucky with their second string quarterback and no Chris Rodriguez play against Iowa and their third string quarterback.
You like pain. You must be one of those guys that just bring on the pain. I can take it.
It's called being a sicko, man. I'm an absolute completely sick in the head.
Well, that's yeah.
Another game that I don't know if it'll be interesting, but has an interesting look for it. Baylor and Air Force, the Falcons looking to get 10 wins in back-to-back years for the first time since 1997 to 1998.
Yeah, Commanders and Chief Trophy winners too. They beat Army and Navy. It always seems like they always beat Army and Navy. But Air Force, I mean that's Thursday before Christmas. I'll be in Biloxi, Mississippi, so I could actually partake in that one. That's true. The SEC has, what are we talking about? 8 teams or something like that in games, maybe 9. If they go 6-3, it'd be good. I don't know.
Yeah. Here's according to Tom Fornelli, CBS, your lock of the week for bowl games: Boise State and North Texas, fresh off Seth Luttrell getting canned by the Mean Green.
Yeah, I was surprised they let him go. I mean, we're talking about Denton, Texas, North Texas. They had a winning record, right? I think he got fired after they lost to UTSA, and folks didn't like that in Denton, Texas. And so Denton is a town about 45 minutes to an hour northwest of Dallas. Pretty nice little community, not far from the Oklahoma border. And I thought Seth Luttrell was doing a pretty good job there. I guess I was wrong. They let him go after that loss to San Antonio. And really a strange situation with Cincinnati and Louisville, where the coach for the Louisville Cardinal, Satterfield, I think his name is.
Satterfield, yep.
Didn't really do anything great at Louisville, very average at best. Ends up now going to Cincinnati, and they're going to play in this Fenway Bowl up in Boston.
At 11 a.m. 11 a.m. you're playing Fenway Park.
I mean, there might be 15,000 fans there, maybe. I could be wrong. There might be more, but I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine. Anyway, so that's what we got. I mean, bowl junkies, and for us, that bowl week between Christmas and New Year's to me is really exciting. But there's a bunch of games before that. So, none of which really stick out. For me, it all starts on December 27th, and we get going on the 28th with some SEC games. You got Oregon, North Carolina in that game. Then on Thursday, the 29th, and Friday, the 30th, it really picks up. And then, of course, we have the national semifinals on December the 31st. To me, it's just like, wow, football season is almost over in college. We're going to go purely pro. And on New Year's Day, there won't be a Rose Bowl. There won't be an Orange Bowl. There won't be a Sugar Bowl. There won't be a Citrus or Outback Bowl. There won't be a Gator Bowl like we've been basically grown up watching for 50 some odd years, or in your case, a lot less than that. And the fact is that we're going to be stuck with NFL football, which is fine. It's better than nothing. But
you can't mess with the league, man. You got to make sure that's the primary reason why the national championship game probably is not on the weekend, because the fact that
it's always on a Monday. It's always on a Monday, Jake. National championship game is always on a Monday.
I think that's the reason now. They have even more reason now not to move it to a Saturday like everybody wants, because the NFL's taking that day now.
Yeah, they are.
So,
yeah.
Shout out to the NCAA for screwing that up.
Well, that's right. And I don't know about you, but I know of a lot of people who, believe it or not, life does not revolve around college football, which to me is utterly ridiculous. But I know a lot of people who have other ideas for New Year's Eve than sitting around watching a football game. There are parties that go on, and there's events that happen. And New Year's Eve, to me, it just has not. Bill Hancock is the problem here with this. But New Year's Eve for the semifinal games never really worked for me. I went to one in Dallas between Alabama and Michigan State on New Year's Eve, and it was great. But to me, if you're at home and you don't have a rooting interest, I guess it doesn't matter, really. But for the players and the teams and the fans who do like to celebrate New Year's Eve, I don't know about football on New Year's Eve. To me, it should be New Year's Day. And that's just the traditional aspect of what I like to watch. Did you watch 49ers last night and Brock Purdy, the newest, hottest thing in pro football? You did?
Yeah, the next Tom Brady, apparently.
Woo, boy, I tell you, the 49ers are so lucky. Here's why they're so lucky. Because in spite of their own stupidity, they lost Trey Lance to an injury, which allowed them to let him fade away into another dimension, and allowed Jimmy Garoppolo to come back. Well, Garoppolo was effective, but then they got lucky again, and he gets hurt, and they bring in Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, who is the talk of the NFL right now. I mean, the 49ers, 35-7 against your Bucs last week, just absolutely embarrassed them.
Destroyed them.
Yeah, and then last night, a very effective 21-13 win on the road at Seattle. The 49ers are a scary team in the NFC. And the Eagles, if you think the Eagles have a cakewalk, I don't care where they play the 49ers. If they play them in Philadelphia or wherever they play them, if those two teams end up playing for the NFC Championship, I'm inclined to think that that's going to be a very close game. I'm not saying Philly won't win it, but Jalen Hurts is going to be challenged by that defense if they're healthy, because they are unbelievable how good they are. And Birdie is getting it done offensively. And then, we have the AFC, which I think
and the AFC.
Well, the AFC to me has got a little bit more interest to it in terms of teams that have an actual chance of winning it, because I don't think Buffalo's a lock at all. Now, if Buffalo plays in Buffalo and the weather kicks up, I don't see anyone beating them either. So maybe they are a lock.
Yeah, I'll tell you about Chris Doring Mortgage and Peachland really quick. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. And Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com and join us on Friday for our Peachland Dentistry JC and the QB weekend picks. Do you want to get some in before we say goodbye?
I'd like to get a few in. We got NFL action coming on Sunday. First of all, I'm going to take the Gators to just there's too many unknowns. I'm going to think it's be a closer game, but I said 38-28. I'm going to take Oregon State to win the game 38-35. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a lot of scoring, and I think Jack Miller's going to play great. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Oregon State. So, do you have a prediction for the Florida game?
I got Oregon State. I'm going to go 28-17.
Okay, Oregon State 28-17. Now, in the NFL, I will be in Jacksonville, home of the resurgent Jacksonville Jaguars, who have two of the best road wins of any team this year. The win they had last week was unbelievable, and then they beat the hell out of the LA Chargers earlier in the season. I mean, blew them out in Los Angeles. Nobody could understand this team. It all comes down to Trevor Lawrence and how he plays. But that game that the Jags played last week, Jake, was at Tennessee, and it was the best game of the year for them. 36-22, dominating the Titans. So they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas had a lot of issues with Houston last week. Doesn't mean anything for this game. But Dallas is giving 4.5. You want to pick that one? That's 4.5.
I got Dallas. I'll take Dallas. So I'll give them covered.
You think they'll just go on in there and take care of business, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the 4.5 just because I think Jacksonville can keep it close. I do think Dallas should win that game, but Jackson, again, it's all about Trevor Lawrence for the Jags. If they get going, Evan Ingram looked great. I mean, who the hell is that guy? He comes out of nowhere, and they just light it up at Tennessee last week. Here's another game that I think is interesting, another resurgent name and a team that's still alive for the playoffs, Jake, and that would be your Detroit Lions playing at the New Jersey Jets. The Jersey Jets are laying 2.5. You're going to give me Jared Goff and the red-hot Detroit Lions against the New Jersey Jets. I want to take those 2.5 and take the Lions.
Yeah, I'll take the Lions too. They're playing great football right now, which I don't think anybody has said about the Detroit Lions in probably over a decade.
Well, they seem to be a lot better at home, but on the road, if Goff doesn't turn the football over, Detroit can beat you. Here's a pretty good game in the AFC. Well, I don't know if it's a good game. I don't really know if Tampa Bay can stay with Cincinnati, but tell me why that number is 3.5. 3.5? Really? Cincinnati, who's playing for a home field position and perhaps the top seed in the AFC, because I think Cincinnati is only a game behind Buffalo, and they play the Bills in Cincinnati. If the Bengals can win out and beat the Buffalo Bills, guess who gets to host and get a week off? It's the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know. They are only laying 3.5. I think they beat Tampa by 2 touchdowns. Give me Cincinnati.
I think the thing with the Bucs is they've always they keep losing, right? And they play terrible, but they keep losing close games for some reason. And it's probably because of Tom Brady and the defense stepping up when it needs to. It's probably why that line is so close, at least in my opinion. A lot of their games have been very close, even if they lose. So, I mean, I'll take the Bucs to cover. I can't wear a Bucs hat and then say, "Oh, the Bucs aren't going to cover."
Well, that's a good point. And you're wearing the old school Bucs hat too, which I love that logo. One of the greatest ever. Bruce, was that his name? Bruce the Buccaneer. Yeah, okay. Well, so you said Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Whew, Jake, such a homer. Okay. Well, I like it. I mean, I like it. I think I like it. Actually, I don't like it at all. So let's see. I'll give you, how about one more now? I forgot about Kansas City. Actually, I didn't forget about them. They are also a team with 3 losses, losing a tiebreaker with Buffalo. And I'm not sure how Cincinnati and Kansas City work out if they have the same record. Who would win the tiebreaker there? I'd have to look that up. It wouldn't take long. It's very simple. But somebody was telling me that
Cincinnati beat them. So
okay, so there you go. And I think you're right. Cincinnati did beat them by 2 points. So they win a tiebreaker against KC. They just need Kansas City to lose one more time. And before you know, it's the Cincinnati Bengals will be hosting throughout the playoffs with the 1 seed if they can beat the Buffalo Bills at home. And it's all about Joe Burrow. It's all about their defense. I've just been very impressed with Cincinnati, but I still think Buffalo could be the team to beat if they get the home field advantage, just because of how difficult it is to deal with playing at Buffalo, dealing with that team on that field and those fans. Buffalo, to me, at home just seems to be a natural selection. But if they lose to the Bengals, I'm not convinced they will win a playoff game on the road. They've lost some playoff games on the road in their history. But at home, I don't think Buffalo can be beat. So let's go with one more. How about the I'm trying to find Well, there's Buffalo and Miami. Now they have 3 Saturday games, Jake. We have 3 games tomorrow. The Colts, Vikings, Ravens, Browns, Dolphins, Bills. Dolphins are getting 7 at Buffalo. Dolphins, I think, are going to freeze up there. The Dolphins' 3rd straight road game. Give me Buffalo -7. I think Miami is going to fight hard for a wild card position. This last 3-week spell, the schedule maker didn't do them any favors.
Yeah, I'll take the Bills. I'll take the Bills there.
Okay. All right. So we got Dallas. You've got Dallas. I've got the Jags with the points. We both have Detroit. You have Tampa somehow. I'll take Cincinnati. And
Life's about risks, JC. Okay.
Okay. Hey man, go Bucks. Yo ho, yo ho. They could ruin Cincinnati's chances at home field if they beat them, of course. Buffalo -7 over Miami, I think, is an easy pick. Miami will be very ineffective at Buffalo. I'm sorry. They've got snow. They've got miserable conditions up north. This whole week has been a disaster up there. The weather's been terrible. Miami's going to die up there. They got 0 chance. It's kind of like the Bears have 0 chance of staying inside of 10 points against the Eagles in Chicago, unless Jalen Hurts just can't handle the conditions there either.
And I'll leave you with this, JC, as we're heading out for the end of this show. Thanks to Comfort Temp, schedule your air conditioner tune-up. Call them at 352-376-2366. But on this day in sports history, Jameis Winston wins the Heisman Trophy Award.
Unbelievable.
Shout out
He
to
did.
famous Jameis.
Yeah.
Saints legend.
Poor guy just can't stay healthy. So that's it. We didn't even talk about basketball, but maybe next time. I think, listen, dude, have a great holiday, Jake. Thanks for filling in for Shane. And, we appreciate you being able to do this for us while he travels or while, he's unavailable. And, let's hope the Gators can pull this thing out. You never know, man. This is an opportunity.
I know, some people want me off the show. I'm picking against the Gators. Give me a hard time right now.
Who cares?
So,
listen, this is all about auditioning for the spring.
It's about being right for me.
That's right. It's about being right.
Anyway, we'll see you later, JC. Thanks to everyone for watching. Shout out to Jason for producing us today, and we'll see you later.